Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited to introduce your guest today, Dion. Dion has his own production company, and he's also a member of a AI content creation startup and all sorts of things. And yeah, the first question I love to ask is, what do you do?
So my name is Daehan, and so I'm a film producer and director with my own production company based here in South Korea. And I also am involved as a creative director for an AI virtual human tech company called Pony ENT. And I also do a lot of freelance creative consultation on projects and branding. And right now, actually starting this year, I have my third job, so-called, which is to work as a film director based in Kuala Lumpur. So I'm working with a really big directors agency called Directors Think Tank.
You've run your production company for approximately 5 years. It's your own. What would you say are like the biggest insights you've learned from that about entrepreneurship or just life in general from those experiences?
I think right now is a good time for me to talk about it because I actually haven't had any time to reflect on it until you asked me today. So I think it's really good. I started my company in my 20s, and right now I'm in my early 30s. And to me, age is not that different, but I did take away a lot of things because, COVID hit, and then it was difficult time for a lot of people. And then I also, when I was first starting out my company, I got in trouble with a lot of people. And it's just because, production is a very competitive industry and there's a lot of ego involved. Everybody has their own ideas and own opinions. And it's not an answer because like art has no answer. Everything is subjective. And even if we're working in commercial, there has to be some artistic elements involved. Director's decision, producer's decision, editor's decision, like all these decisions have to come together for a single message or single video or single campaign. And a lot of egos involved. And along with that, also like a lot of injustice and unfairness in this industry is involved. When I was younger, I only believed in talent. I'm not saying I'm talented, but only believing in the result. So if you do a good work, you will be recognized. And it paid off. But to me, along the way, I also lost a lot of valuable clients because of that. Because I neglected on the fact that you should also socialize with people. You should also take people into account. To me, so that was like a little bit of a cultural difference. I'm not saying in the United States you should neglect on people, but it was more like, I think in US, people take into account, they all know this is very egocentric industry. So when a lot of opinions collide, it's very normalized. If you don't do a good work, nothing else really matters. But to me, that was only half the truth because your work may be good or bad because you can still fail. I've done countless projects where I'm not proud of the results. But then I also have some projects that I'm really proud of making, right? And in doing so, actually, you end up with people. But I didn't know that. And I also, therefore, didn't know how to work with difficult clients. To me, when I was younger, it felt like you were invading my authority. You hire me, you were paying me expensive money to hire a film director who learned this in school, who had this experience to tell you what is good for you. But you also have to know that at the end of the day, you are likely to go back to the people that you want to work with. And then I realized that much later. So to me, that was a very expensive lesson, but really valuable lesson. Something that still I consider to be the most important lesson that I took away in my 20s, because now I'm in my 30s. And I am starting kind of like somewhat of a similar venture in Malaysia. So I talked about it briefly when I was introducing myself. Earlier this year, a big directors agency called Think Tank brought me to Kuala Lumpur. So they recruited me. And this is like a really big agency for directors. They have, I think 15, even 20 like in-house directors working with a lot of international directors, and they connect with different brands, and they have really great production support system, much bigger than the scale that I'm running my own production company here in South Korea. It's really beneficial to work with clients and work with agencies, because I feel like, hey, would I behave the same if it was 5 years before? I think I would be making the same mistake. But when you're younger, it's hard to be aware. If your intention is to like better yourself, right? Because when in your 20s, you also are very thirsty for your portfolio. Like you have to make things better. I don't think it only applies to film director job. Like, you know, if you're engineer, if you're like, if you're working in any different field, in your 20s, you're kind of really thirsty for your portfolio, and then you want to like make quality work, but oftentimes like you neglect on how important people are, people around you, and especially film industry is working with a large group of people, like a large number of people. You cannot make a film by yourself. And, you know, if they're giving you difficult times, like, you know, that is just because they have their ambition and you have your ambition. But if you can know how to merge the ambitions together, so you have the shared ambition, then it becomes suddenly really fun. And it's not all of a sudden like they're not giving you hard times anymore. It's more like, hey, we're all just trying to figure out together, you know. You may have different opinions, but at the end of the day, if we're all proud of what we have done, then we can move on all happily. So I think that was the biggest lesson learned from finding my own company, and then like, you know, just snowballing all the way up until here.
You said you got a lot of clients coming in when you first started your production company, but you said young directors, it's very hard to get clients. What do you think are the reasons why you were able to get so many clients? Like, what was the process like? How did you like share yourself to get those clients?
So here is, I'm going to give you a very subjective, personal answer, because I know everybody has different opinion. Normally, when you're 26, you barely graduated, and then you are working as an assistant director. So back in the United States, when I was like really first starting, that was a really good thing that people recognize. Oh, you're so young, but you're trying so hard. Like, good for you. You know, I want to support you. But back in Korea, a lot of the times I missed out on the clients because they didn't believe fully the younger director. I don't know why, but they had this culture where like we want more experienced directors, right? Age was working against me when you know. So that was like, okay. So I could tell that a lot of people didn't want to take risk of hiring younger people. Like I said, when I founded my like first solo company, Other Side, in 2008, clients really started flooding in. Like, it was so magical, if I remember, because I founded my company for documentary. I had no intention of working on a paid gig, but most of the times, like these clients, first of all, they had nothing to do with my past work, which was also really interesting. I don't know how they found me, but, you know, I was basically, my mindset was, you know, let's just go to all these different sets. I don't care if I'm an audio person, I'm an assistant. I just want to, you know, experience more. And then along the way, like I met people who recognized me and then started calling me for a job. And, you know, like really thankful. Some of them still call me these days. We remain good friends. But I think when you meet someone in this industry, you can kind of tell whether this person is ready to work for the greater good than your own ego. Because it's so easy to say, this is my vision, you know, this is the way I see. I'm going to bring artistic ability to your project. But it shows. I think so many young people don't know this, but you can smell that from miles away. Like, you know, when I look back, of course I was lucky. I was lucky that these people recognized me and called me, even though I had nothing to show. But it was also the fact that I think I exerted a different energy then, which was like, yeah, I just want to make good work with you, you know, and I'm done making work for myself. I'm not hungry for portfolio. I just want to work with you. And to me, that energy transcended to more people calling me for jobs, and then more people giving me belief, even though I didn't have proper portfolio to support my ideas. And it takes a lot of courage and a lot of risk for these people, like they're about to spend a lot of money on someone to create a video for them. And it could go very wrong because video, there's not like, there's not a lot of like a safety net, it could go seriously wrong, even though you're on set and everything. It's just that risky. So that's why I think a lot of people are conservative.
I mean, I would love to, because your production company is based in Korea. It's one of the hub spots of entertainment, K-pop, and these things rising. What would you say is like unique about Korea's entertainment and the business around entertainment and production that with your own experience you can say like, oh, Korea is like this, different from the United States and the rest of the world?
The way I see is South Korea is so hybrid. It means the quality is so high-end, but at the same time, it still remains so flexible. One of the things that I really think is a big problem in Los Angeles and this whole Hollywood industry is that they're so fixated, and then they're giant dinosaurs. So they're very slow. They do an extremely good job because of that.
Okay, one of the questions, I was trying to build a marketing agency myself as well, is how much do you usually like charge your clients, or what's the industry average for charging in Korea? And then like, how do these like companies that you pay for, like that they pay for your production, how do they get that money return on investment back? And what's like the average like ROI? Like, do they get like 2 times more money back, and how do they track it?
Right. So I'll try to be very transparent here, because I think our industry is sort of like a subdivision of this big marketing firm industry, because any advertisement, like I'm talking about advertisement, not the movie making, because I'll talk about 2 things, maybe the original content and also working for a client, which is a paid job. So let's say you have a commercial to make. Normally that comes from already like a big yearly marketing campaign, or like a big campaign that you have already worked with different creative directors, blah, blah, blah. Let's say you're Samsung and you're releasing a new phone, Galaxy S25, and then, everything key message-wise is determined at the higher level in terms of the production, right? So you focus on what this product is, who is it for, and therefore how we should approach the market, blah, blah, blah. What's our market? Those things are determined. And then it comes down to like, then what medium, right? Do we need an advertisement? If you pass those layers of tests, then comes to the agency that we work with as production companies. So as a production company, I work with advertisement agencies, but the agencies that have the needs for video work. Sometimes agencies don't need video work. Like there's so many agencies, like printing agencies, web agencies. But anyway, so top down, right? So you have the campaign to make, and you have the medium to use, which is, say, video. And then it comes down to then who can make videos. Then it comes to companies like us, production companies. And that's a really important question. So how much do we charge? So it depends. There's no clear cut. And that's why this industry is still very secretive and still very untransparent in that way. My knowledge may not be the truth or the consensus, I should say. Normally, making advertisement through production houses like us is very expensive, very, very expensive compared to what you can make with your own marketing team. Let's say you have your own marketing team. I'm sure some of them can handle some camera work. It's just about the quality. But then why do they want quality? Why are they spending this expensive money, right, for expensive people and for an expensive like production day? Why do they do that? Because they're expecting bigger return from it, right? Otherwise, it makes no sense. But sometimes what we do has to be directly related to the return that is not numeric. Oftentimes, when we make expensive advertisement, the client is not expecting on the profit return for the product. Most of the times, they're working on enhancing their brand values or their exposure. So the return may not be as numeric and as visible short term. Some projects, however, are looking for short term. So when they're releasing a cosmetic product, we just have to make sure it sells well. They're hiring an expensive A-list celebrity, and we have to make the product look so good that people at Olive Young will want to buy your product rather than your competitor's product. So if that's our job, then of course the return has to be numeric, right? Did we do well this quarter with this advertisement? Does this director know how to understand the brand? Like, let's say we're targeting like 20-year-old young females. Like, does this director understand blah blah blah? So that determines the overall production cost. Normally, we have what is called above the line and below the line. Below the line, we normally refer to all the labor costs and all the production related costs that are fixed. Above the line are people sort of like who are decision makers and whose rate depend. So below the line costs, wherever you go is the same, no matter which production house you go, because it's sort of like an industry standard, right? But above the line is when it gets tricky, because above the line, you can hire a director who charges you $300 a day, or you can hire a director who charges you $20K US dollars a day. That is a big jump, and that's why there's no answer. How does it get determined? It's all about how much quality you're expecting from the single video or like a series of videos. And so the gap is really huge. Like even if you're a director, you could really be making like, I know when you're starting out, you could charge a client like $100 US dollars or even free because you just want to get something made.
And the other question is, you just mentioned you have your base in Indonesia and Malaysia, so like a lot of people there. How is that place different from Korea and the rest of the world?
So when I was 15, I moved to Cambodia by myself, and then I lived in Cambodia for 3.5 years. But I learned that per capita purchasing power has nothing to do with their desire for culture, especially for young people. So even though you make like 3,000 USD per year, you have the same thirst for culture. And to me, that was like an eye-opening moment when I was living in Cambodia. Because when you go to developing country, you think they have less thirst for culture, but it's absolutely not true. At least that's what I've learned. And the entertainment industry, let's say we don't hear a lot about Malaysian pop or Indonesian pop, right? I think there are two things that make Korean entertainment sort of stand out and why they're so successful in these countries is because in order for a culture to blossom, like you need certain elements to work in your favor. So for example, I think the big fundamental of why K-pop is so successful right now is we were so lucky. In 1999 and 2000, 2001, when the K-pop was really like, beginning, there was just so much freedom in society, so much diversity accepted, and so much weird experiments happening on TV. So many, like if you know a little bit about K-pop, that was the weirdest time in K-pop. And that's why I view that time as a golden age of K-pop, because everybody was trying really different weird things and random things, I think Korea was so lucky, but also like right time and right moment, early 2000 millennial, everybody thought the world was ending. So everybody just wanted to do whatever they wanted. So colorful, so weird. So that's the big difference. But I don't know if there's a big difference. If you go and if you talk to like younger people, like let's say, like if you go meet like your peers, they talk about the same thing, They're equally like entertained by the same shows you watch. So to me, the biggest difference would be that they have to rely on importing that culture. So whether it's from Korea or Japan or from US or from, let's say, India, Bollywood, or from, UK, wherever the source is, they are the big importer of the culture, but not an exporter. Korea is a big exporter of the country, of that culture. I think that would be the significant difference.
Just based on your past experience of like founding member of the AI content creation and your current work, what do you think are big trends in the future for the entertainment and the business industry around it that you think are great opportunities for people to join?
When you talk about the next big change, I think it definitely has to do with AI, like the generative AI. It's already chunking up into our industry and our workflow. For example, just this past couple of works, I ended up using extensive amount of like chat GPT based AI for prepping the images and prepping the storyboard for the client to visualize what we're trying to achieve. Already a big change. That change is coming. I think, using Midjourney and other like existing firms, like people can already establish the tone and style of who they are when you're young. So to me, now you don't have to wait years of building portfolio as a film director to convince your audience. I think in that way, AI is a big change. Throughout the industry, AI can be good or bad at the same time, because AI, the generative AI to me, sadly, means death of photography. I hate to say this because some people will very strongly disagree with me, and I understand that. Why I say death of photography is because this conventional sense of photography to me, like where you take the camera and you take a picture, you have a subject, you pay for a photographer to create certain image, is quickly coming to an end, and it's not like it will go on forever. You know what else goes on forever? Classical music. It's dead, but it goes on forever. The biggest trend really is AI. Everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's afraid of AI, and everybody wants to be the one who's good with AI. So to me, if somebody can understand how to use AI, how to incorporate AI better into their workflow, it will create different business opportunities for them. Realistically, if you incorporate more AI, like your efficiency goes up so much. Like in the editing also, like it can replace your assistant editor's job to a certain extent, because there's always like unreliability coming with AI at the moment. But it whether I think it's a good change or not, the change is coming. So even for me, I learned that at AdFest, all these creative consultants, all these directors and producers, talking about AI, they want to be on top of their game with AI. And whoever doesn't understand that will sadly fade away. So to me, if you want to like know, what is like up and coming trend, look no further. Maybe like the creative brief that I suggested you in your like last week's meeting has like 10 AI images that you would know or you would not know, or like the AI voices. Sadly, however, that's also a warning sign for a lot of young people, because if you're trying to get into film school, or if you're trying to get into like a visual medium, you have to know which jobs are dying out.
So this is kind of like the last question I ask. It's, if you can travel back to when you're 17 years old, what would you tell yourself?
I cannot imagine myself traveling back to when I was 17, because I still feel like 17. So if you ask me the question, it almost feels like asking my current self, what advice would I give to myself? If you travel back in time, talk to your 17-year-old self, what would you ask? So my first response is like, say, right? What would you say? Okay. So I would say remain 17. That's what I want to say. Because 17 is a very beautiful number. To me, 17 represents not the total end of high school. So you still don't have the total control of your life as an independent adult. You still have to rely on whatever you're relying on, whether it's coming from your parents or, if you're, let's say, if you're getting support from your teacher or like foundation or whatever, or scholarship, whatever it is, you're not really free. But your dream is free. You're old enough to already have your set goals and dreams and ambitions. And also, I think by 17, you have fair amount of betrayal and fair amount of heartbreaks. To me, that's enough. And I think life remains at 17. I think that's the key. You don't get to 27. You don't get to 37. To me, 17 continues on like forever. But you don't realize that when you're 17. When you're 17, I think you want to be 21 and 31 and then 51. But the magic is actually understanding that 17 is forever. And so if to me, the reason I say that is I want to say all the 17-year-olds, 17 continues forever. It doesn't end. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't look forward to new starts. Of course, there are exciting moments when you're 18, 19, 20. But what I mean is, once something goes, something else comes in to fill that gap. To me, 17 is a very magical age because you're just barely old enough to be ready to stand up. But to me, that's the whole point. You're never going to feel ready to stand up until you do. But at 17, you can actually do that already. And I think the key is to always having that level of confidence and that level of insecurity at the same time, because that keeps your ego in check. And also that same level of hope. You have so much hope when you're 17 because your life is ahead of you. But you're still, imagine when you're 35, if you're still 17, you still have so much hope and dreams ahead of you. I think that's the magic. I think that's the key. So you don't really never get to like 35. Just stay 17. I know it's a little bit dreamy, but I think that's how I feel.
Well, ladies and gents, this was Hyun. Thank you so much for your time. It's my pleasure.